Well, hello everyone. You're here to talk about right here, talk about for the proud goals and basically talk about for teachers. So is that I'm sure that most of us have seen you from the other previous activity that I worked. Talk about for proud goals and I know that like other pieces that of course that be using later on too. That I know that seems like a lot of times about digital designing or any type of graphic designing that more likely be taken and you're like one to where that seems like that there's no such thing as what you call yeah, well, my work is done or whichever. But on your hand, at some point, anybody that may say is to where really is the goal really about is to where they find out whenever the time is to where that well your work is done that's that's below the pay grade or above the pay grade or anything like that. But beyond the responsibility, but that as a kid that I can remember that I'm like yeah that for any of my class work that I kept thinking about as to where that how far I would get with my artwork, and one of those would be as to where that teaching other people about the basics about any other children that about the basics about about my artwork here. And I know that some of these pictures right here yeah that they were taken a long time ago, and did they really show anything or present anything? And I could probably say that that's really like the only thing that I really have. But other than that that yeah, I am pretty surprised what I find around especially. But as you see right here are some examples right here of whenever I was very young. And I know that a lot of the videos I have posted up were talking about banking and money management and stuff like that. But during this time, of course, I can likely say to her that yeah, that whenever I was young, that I would be proud of getting a toy, or especially around my birthday. And if I can remember right, I don't know if these pictures, if I can remember right, they were taken back in 1987, but if I can remember right, if it was summer, in which I think it was summer of 90, about June, I would say right around this time, June of 1987, whenever these pictures were taken. So whenever I look at these, I'm like necessarily thinking about that, for what we were smiling about, and so you're like wanting to where with, especially with birthday coming up or anything like that, anything that I could have been doing maybe around the yard, or maybe if it was a school assignment or anything like that. And then you see right here is that with this drawing right here of like what you call one of my classmates right here talking about the grade scores. But another thing I will also want to talk about too is talk about what the teachers know. So if anybody wants to where that really, I'm like, how well do you get along with your teachers? So I can maybe draw an example right here of like a teacher right here. And I know that a lot of times whenever kids are going to be in class, they're going to more likely learn to where that really, I'm like, you're going to have a a teacher if it's going to be a man or a woman, and sometimes I'm like, really, that how well do you get along with your teachers? And some students that may warrant to where, especially whenever you're in college, is to where that how come that that's the situation to where that sometimes that you have nice conversations with the teachers, maybe in the meetings or some sort, but then whenever you're in the classroom, that seems like a totally different story. So let's just say that yeah, they have a nice meeting with the parents, that they got to meet, the parents, or the uncle or whoever that is like the guardian of the kid, and so you're like Warren to where that you meet that the teacher, and by the time you're in the classroom, it seems like the way that they want to teach something, such as to where you start talking about something, and they say that well, we've already talked about that, Matt. Well, we're not even on, Matthew. Well, we're not even working on that right now. So you're like Warren to where that really, how well do people get along with teachers, and especially students, and I know that like back whenever I was young, that I had a variety of teachers. A few of them were even special educational teachers. So it was like thinking necessarily to where with most of these teachers that with most kids that whenever you have teachers, that some of them are like they talk to you like, oh, you're not following the directions, that you misunderstood something. one of those could be is to where that we're missing some work from you in your folder. You're supposed to keep it in your folder. So just thinking about is to where that we may think necessarily to where a few I say advantages and disadvantages about teachers though is to where that with the teachers that they want you to be flexible with the students in the classroom and they ask, it's like, oh, that's great that you're talking to one of the students about something, but really, you don't need to be talking about no favorite vegetable or sandwich right now. You're talking about about the assignment, but so you're thinking about while you're in the classroom that at the time, why is it that there's a difference between what you call is like, oh yeah, you have your nice conversations, that the teacher sounds like she understands a lot. You talked about a lot of things about, oh, what you like doing on the weekends especially. But then whenever you're in the classroom, it seems like to where that they kind of like, which they got to go by what you call the rules as to where that well, we've already talked about that, Matthew, or well, we're not even just going to this. And then they may even mention as to where that, okay, we're in the middle of reading a story or something. So I know that there are some teachers out there to where that they want to mention to their students as to where that anything that they say is to where that yeah, well, that's due. I can, okay, well, I'll have it in by Thursday or so, and then by the time you're in the classroom that there's still something missing, and then that you look at that grade report and you're like Warren to where the student's not very happy to see it. So I'm sure there's a lot of kids out there that or college students, anybody that may want to where that you work real hard in the classroom and find out that maybe the grades are just unstable, something that did not come out very well or some kind. So you're like maybe thinking about as to where whenever you meet a cute looking lady, like, hey, you're funny, but whenever you meet a cute looking girl in the classroom, and then the next thing it's like, yeah, that that the teacher didn't like your work, so that you may think that that's a little bit embarrassing too, because of the fact about yeah, the teacher that you turn in your assignment, but then she said some things like it's not acceptable. Nope, sorry, but you're going to have to redo something here. You're missing something. So it seems like, how do students usually handle that to where that whenever they're in class that they want to talk about talk to the students about something, about maybe a movie that they've seen, or maybe their favorite activity, their favorite game or some sort, and then whenever they're in class, that the teacher's going to maybe mention to them about work that they're missing. Hey, that I'm concerned that you're not going to get done on time, Matthew. Hey, Matthew, you're missing something here. You need to understand. Please reread the assignment criteria or the assignment, and please review the notes. Please take down notes. You're missing some work. So I know that for like for any teachers as to where that that I can remember that from my junior and senior year, that I know that I guess if there's any rule about it, as to where that you can't really develop a relationship with the teachers, though, as to where the teachers are there, they're there to teach, and they're there to do their job. They're not really there really to develop like what you call a special connection from with the students. But let's just say that with any teacher that that's gonna be in the classroom, and you have these discussions in the classroom or maybe in a meeting room with the teachers, and sometimes it's like, do you think you'll be able to handle that? Oh yeah, I'm like, I should be able to. And then by the time you look at the work, and it's like, a few things that you find real challenging. So I know that I guess if we want to call it a habit, to where that whenever we think about this, is to where that we know that we got work to do, and then thinking that we'll be able to handle getting the assignments in on time, and especially to where that you like with the teacher, for what the teacher told you and that what need to be done, and thinking about for what all that that needs to be done. And it seems like that there's a difference between that, to where that for what that needs to be done from what you're able to do. So the way I think about though is like coming up in August is to where that I'm sure anybody that more likely warns to where that coming up in August is to where going back to school is to where anything that you may need maybe on the first day of school that things that you didn't bring to class with you like you were supposed to on the first day of class. So seems like I keep thinking though as to where that like all the other classmates that they may be treated what you call special. But compared to me though, I'm like, oh no, Matthew, yeah, he was transferred. He was transferred to another from another class. You should pick on him more often because he's the most common student, to be coming to class and not doing his work and not bringing all of his work. And this kind of reminds me of a dream I just had recently as to where I was in a classroom. I was dreaming that I was in a classroom and that it was about I was looking at some assignment or something something like that, but I was dreaming about I was in the classroom looking at some classwork, and then I think I wound up going into like what you call I wound up spacing out. I think I wound up going staring at the classwork a little bit too long, and so I look up and all these other students were just doing something else. Whenever I looked up, they were all looked like they were all getting in groups and all doing their little chat and writing stuff down. And so I was like wondering, okay, what are we supposed to do? What are the directions? I'm sorry, I may have missed something. So the teacher's going to say, you really need to listen, Matthew, because I just said that please pick your partner, please write down, assignment 1 or 2. So you're like 1 or 2 where that, this right here would be example right here of my partner right here. And like, if it was going to be maybe a male student and, get into a group with all the other class, students and the teacher basically is to where that said is to where, okay, everyone, all get into groups and please, take you turn it, get your books out and turn to page 45 or turn to page 15 and please read paragraph chapters 1 and 2 and then take down notes. And so I know that and I can remember a lot of stories from when I was in school, and one of these was not even related to like science class. One of those was related to I think shop class or industrial tech. Whenever I was in middle school, I can remember that there was kids in the classroom that basically that they took down notes and they mentioned about ideas that they wanted to use, and then they said it's like, well, Matthew didn't come up with no ideas, but one of them said that well he has to read them. So I can remember I read them, but it was like that the teacher would write down on the board on the announcement board, but still that I can remember that sometimes, how do we take it to her that there's a group of students and one of them that tells you that they may not even ask you can you come up to an agree to where you can go ahead and read off the answers to the teacher and as well as turn in the paper to the teacher, and you're like warned to her sometimes a lot of the students' handwriting, which I know that sometimes that once or twice that maybe a few times or so that I didn't have too much of a hard time reading it, but then it was like whenever I was in class, sometimes when somebody asked me to read off something or speak up about something, it was like, okay, I didn't think that I was going to get picked, or so let's just say that looking at some of these pictures right here, and you're like Warren Tour that you have right here is like for chin up, and as well as me right here is like that small face right there of mine, and you're like Warren Tour. Really, is that something to be proud of? To be picked. The teacher's gonna call your name and ask you, hey, this student right here picked you to be a part of the group, and then where it's like the teacher looked at you, is like, okay, Matthew, what do you got to say? So I call that a lot of times of being a part of the spotlight. So whenever I look at this right here and thinking necessarily to where that, what do you think the teacher's thinking necessarily? So whenever I have some of these conversations, I keep thinking about, like college courses to where, because they call me professors or instructors, or if it's, facilitators or anybody like that, like I guess you say professors or faculty members, that you have these nice conversations with them a lot of times. Most of the time they sound pretty mature, and they sound like they understand about what you're frustrated with, or any questions about something. And but then whenever you're in the classroom, it just seems like to where a little bit of the opposite, to where that they don't know what you posted. Oh, okay, what's this all about, Matthew? Can you explain? And then they want to go ahead and maybe post it in their own words, such as to where that they want to rephrase it, such as, okay, we're trying to understand what you posted up here, Matt. The assignment asked for this or that, and so why is it? Why is it that we see that that in the classroom everything just seems so totally different? Anything that you may have talked about at the meeting, anything that you may have been talking to, maybe if it was out of class, or maybe they say that, oh no, that was in class. That, but still, that we can't really point the finger just yet as to where the teacher gave you clear directions about what you had to do, or it was about is toward that, yeah, always blame Matthew because he's always misunderstanding something. But you have right here as an example right here of a female teacher, but I'm sure most teachers, I'm like, they are pretty respectful to where for what you don't understand, what you do understand about that, the assignment. And I'm sure, like with anybody, that going back to school and then being in school, and most of us can remember is to where that raise your hand if you want to speak up about something. My first day of school, I can remember that that I they had it to where it was like, for online, they wanted you to speak up about something. And then sometimes it was like a lot of my writing skills were not all absolutely perfect. So let's just say that if this was right here, if I were to be maybe on Skype, or like anybody probably say, if you're going to be in a meeting with your teacher, maybe on the phone, and please respond to my post right here on your right, and like, okay, and then so we, most of us have seen that before. I can go ahead and maybe draw an example right here. This right here would be like, say, like a little tab right here. Yeah, this was right here, like maybe on a smartphone. It would be like a little tab right here, and then it would be like a little yellow tab like that. Like try, I could maybe give it a color too, but there would be like a little tab right here that you would select, just to be able to start and you'll begin a conversation. And sometimes that you're like, Warren, okay, whatever that means, okay, it's there. Well, so it seems like a number of things that are happening all at the same time. That you're like Warren, to where that you finally get connected, and then the teacher's trying to respond to your question. They're trying to tell you something. So instead of back in the old days to where that they have you raising your hand, and I know that I'm like, I don't know about the, most of us have seen this before, but like anybody say, yeah, you usually raise your hand if you want to ask something or mention something about, hey, I know the answer to this question, but with me though is to where that anybody probably say that yeah, please raise your hand, but you're like, weren't necessarily to where that well, this right here, I guess if that would be an example right there of like, to raise your hand if you want to speak up about something. So one of those will be like, hi. So, and the first start of a conversation, more likely that you might say something like, hi. Like, well, you're not going to mention any names or anything, but just say that, hi. But so the way I think about though is like for any meeting that you're going to begin a chat, like maybe with a teacher of some sort, and I know that for sure that this stuff right here is not really considered toys. So that the teacher would maybe ask you as to where that they would more likely say that most, back in those days, back in like 1987, that they would probably say that, if you're going to be what you call on a calculator, or maybe anything that they would maybe take away from you, to say that, if there's something that, that begins to be a distraction towards for what you're doing and what you're supposed to be doing, and more likely they would take it away. Because I know I've seen a few students as to where they're going to be in class and they're going to be maybe be reading a comic book, and I guess I can use like in a comic book as an example. They're going to be looking at a comic book instead of taking down notes for whatever that they need to study about, and so they're going to say, hey, put the comic book away, or I'm going to take it away. But on the other hand, they give it back to you. Most of the time, they give it back to you after class. But still, that sometimes that this reminds me as to where that they take it away, especially a comic book. So you would think a number of things that they would take away. One of those maybe you know, maybe not even a smart, a smartphone. Maybe they say like maybe a phone or anything like that, maybe a touchscreen phone. Nowadays it seems like anything that you may have bought. You bought it just to check it out, or you bought it just because you wanted to play with it. It was affordable, whichever the reason was, and you decided to bring it to school with you, and you're like, "Hey, everybody, look what I got!" But the teacher, what the teacher's going to think about is like to where. Whenever you got to present that, Matthew, you can't, you should only present it in class whenever it's the right time, okay? So you're like Warren Tour, number of stories anybody's thinking about necessarily Tour. You're like Warren Tour that when I can also add a little bit more color, but anyway, that right here is like with the teacher though. It's like the things that we want to mention is like for what the teacher thinks. So whenever you're going to be talking about stuff outside of class, and then at the time I'm like Warren to where that it seems like to where that the students and then the teachers keep picking on me. They keep telling me about where's this, where is that. That was not on order, or that was not requested. You didn't ask me to do that. Well, you didn't ask me to do this. So you're like Warren to where at the time the teachers that they may ask to see something related to an assignment, and then you may say, well, nobody asked me. So that's just a thing that what do you call that whenever they see your work, but then now they want to see something else? Do you call that bright and intelligent, or do you just call that is to where that they're just want to call a drama conversation to where that they become so interested in your work as to where that they want to go ahead, now they want to mention a few things that you're missing and they recommend you to do. So think about those classes that you've had that they may say is to where that your scores may go between a 90% and maybe a 79, but still, those are what you call, they may be passing grades. So maybe not everything. This is not really what you call, maybe like a club to where that yeah, you come to school and I guess it's not that common sense to where that you cannot expect to where people are gonna, they like your work, but then they want you to work more on something. So it seems like you're in class to learn, and sometimes it seems like to where some people that may say is to where I don't even know why I'm in your class, because they don't, not too many people, not too many students in that classroom like me anyway, and plus the way that the teacher thinks of my work. She keeps telling me about stuff that I'm missing, stuff that I need to work on, but on the other hand, I guess really, what is the main point of the whole part about the goal here? To where that the teachers, whenever you do talk to them, especially in the meetings, is to where I guess that mainly shows to where that they care about you and your education, and then they just want you to try working hard to improve anything. And I know that quite a few of these classes is to where if you pass them or not, is that the teachers is to where that, which I've heard about, is to where that some of them may be there just for their paycheck, or some of them that may say is to where that they care about their students, and those students are there for their reason, to get their education, to graduate and get get their degrees, and for whatever job that they want to do. So goes to the next steps, but on your hand is to where whenever you talk to the teacher, and sometimes that some of them that they may talk to you like, I don't know if you want to call it, to where that they are what you call not bad mouthing you, but or not chewing you out, but they're just trying to teach you something. So sometimes it seems like teachers they may tell you that, we've already told you that. This is last week, Matthew. This is last week. Hey, like you need to reread the assignment. Matthew, this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. Or, please, I'm afraid that you're not going to get finished on time because you have already posted about 2 or 3 other examples. So you're like Warren, to where that kind of puts you on a spot to where, like with any student. And I can more likely say is to where I would maybe be like what you call one. I feel like I'm like one of the only students in the classroom to where that yeah, that happy me right here. And then by the time whenever I started kindergarten and the first grade, and anybody that may warrant to where that not everybody is going to have what you call those smooth what I mean by smooth, not everybody's going to have what you call those great, the best, years. And I know that, everybody on almost any kids on their first day that, they're going to come to school and then they may expect to make friends and learn a lot of stuff, but then maybe the first week or two that it seems like to where that they're gonna be like, it was horrible. I didn't make any friends right away. That they picked on me because I was not, putting the pieces together. I didn't bring the right materials or anything like that. So just thinking about it to where that we may learn things almost every day, like almost all the time that we do the studies, as to where that, for any students, as to where that I begin those struggles, and I don't know about anybody else here that, with their stories about what they want to talk about, their early childhood, about that, that they, it would be nice if they would have had a lot more experience whenever they started, but they didn't, that they were just transferred from another school, so they're just trying to get used to everybody. So those were one of my biggest challenges, was whenever I transferred to another school, is to where that, everybody, you were new to almost everybody, especially to the teacher. And so thinking about necessarily to where you're like, non-acceptable, you need to work on something. So I guess the best of my ability is to what you call keep working on it, and then don't think about it as to where that bad taste for everybody because nobody likes you. So sometimes I guess you could say that I do get kind of upset, down in the press sometimes, even though if I'm always happy, but I try to stay focused on what you call the good things about other than the bad things. So when there's a lot of stress going on, especially in the classroom, I try to think about it as to where maybe a moment to where that I just kind of what you call when I think of something kind of funny, something to look forward to other than thinking about it, as to where people in the classroom, because I can more likely say as to where if you let a lot of this pressure get to you, too much, and then it's possible that it's going to put you on a spot to where that there's a lot of talents, and for what all people, for what we do as what you call designers or educators, and one of those talents would be is to where that you're going to get a lot of comments, a lot of people that they don't like you, they were expecting something from you, they didn't get it, so now they're kind of what you call in that situation to where that they say that, oh, I don't like your work, you're useless, any other names, but the way I think about it, though, is like whenever you talk to a teacher, though, is that it seems like it's not common to where that it's not usual to where that whenever you talk to the teacher, whenever you talk to the teacher, you may not have the best years or best days in classes. You may not have had all the best working assignments, not all the professional based work, but then on your hand too, that you say, well, think about your attendance, think about all that work. I'm sure that there's something that maybe everybody learned about your work. And even though that it may look totally different from everybody else's. So if everybody's assignment would be the same, and more likely they may say that that may mean is to where somebody's copying from somebody's work, and I know that they say that you're not supposed to do that. That's called cheating, but or what you call copywriting or anything like that. But let's just say that if everybody's work were all be the same, then I'm sure that like with anybody that you find you see somebody else's work and knows their work may have more a little bit different things and different thoughts than maybe what you came up with. So I keep thinking though that yeah, well I like that idea even better. What is the teacher and the classmates class students, what are they looking for necessarily? And I'm thinking though that really all they really also looking for is to where for for what we know from each person, is to where there may be something that I may know that maybe they may not know. And so that's the way it was, the way I think about it is too, that for most classes though is to where there's something about the class, about the way it happened, to where that they learned a little bit about you, even though it may not seem like it changed anything, but they may learn some things from you. So whenever I talk, whenever you talk to the teacher, talk to a few of the classmates, and they may say that to where that, you were not the worst out of all. So thinking about it to where that, there are some students that they may think that way, and they may say that teachers and counselors that may say that principals that, you know, hey, I'm like, you were not what you call it one of the worst. I'm like, you turned in your classwork, you did the best you could, and like with any teacher that they may say is to where that, yeah, that how do you handle it, if there's any missing work, and they may ask or you be a little bit concerned about that, anything that you may have missed that you were late getting turned in. So like with anybody that students, you're going back to school, I guess since it's summertime, I guess not too many students are right now are in class now, but yeah, for like summertime, that around August, that whenever students do go back to school, and just something to think about is to where that a lot of teachers is to where whenever you were in class and just thinking about for what the teacher thinks about your work from all the other students, they think is to where that, hey, you come to school, you come to class, you turn in your work, but do they see a lot more to what was in the assignment? The assignment only asks you to do this or that. So just think about it as to where great attendance, maybe great work and skills and talents that maybe a student that has. Really, is that what they really ask for? And I keep asking about that as to where that, and also about meetings though, that to where whenever you talk to a student or maybe a teacher in a classroom, maybe outside of class or so, and maybe if we're going to be having a meeting with the counselor, and then they may say to her that you had those good conversations. Oh yeah, I like your work, and by the time you get in the classroom, it's like they tell you a little bit the opposite. Well, you're missing something, Matthew. Hey, you didn't present it right, or hey, I'm worried that you're not going to get done on time, or hey, that they want to rephrase something such as, I don't need to see this, I need to see that. So really, I'm like, whenever you're going to be in the classroom, it seems like a few things are going to go their own ways. I guess maybe other than different ways, but they're going to go their own ways. But maybe on the same ways to where that they ask as to where that they ask you to please follow the directions, you do what you can, and I'm sure that everything will be okay. So whenever you're going to be in the classroom, that some students that may say is to where that I'm not a good student. I don't know how to do something like this. I don't know how to write the paper because I'm not a good writer. So I'm sure that there's a lot of students that may have the reasons to why that tough challenges, and how people manage those tough challenges. Not just the bills, but then on your hand too with the work. Jobs, the first day on a job, that a lot of things that people are asking for, and you don't even have, you have limited access to what needs to be done for what you have access to. So I can more likely say is to her back whenever I was young, that I'm like, yeah, I want to have my own copier, and now since I got one, and now I'm able to do that, and then some people probably say, now, okay, well now we want to see this, or now we want to see that. So not just thinking about it to where you make a list and you check it twice or whichever, but on your hand too, there may have been only 3 things on the list, or maybe 2 things on the list. Going back to school sales, same way. There could have been maybe 2 or 3 things on the list. But then whenever we go back and then now somebody added about maybe 5 more things on the list. So you make a list, and then you get up 2 of those, or do some of those things on the list, and then somebody has more things that they want you to do on the list. So it seems like Miss Teacher, I'm like, you've only asked me to do this or that. So it's like, well, what do you call that whenever that the teacher asked for more things, and whenever the last day of school, last day of class, and whenever class is about to be over with, and half the time you're like, Warren Tor, you would have asked for that. Ever since week 2 and week 3, according to the assignment, that this is what was asked for. And I remember you mentioned something about these other things that you mentioned for in class, but I wasn't sure if I had to complete those, if I had to make one, or if I had to write a paper or two. So I know it seems like to her that why is it that more work seems like a lot more pressure? And that's sometimes where I think about it too, to where a lot more work is to where that seems like the time limited, to where that they only give you about maybe 2 or 3 days to work an assignment, and thinking about all that work that needs to be done. But I guess it's all about us to where anybody that may say is to where think about what's required first before you thinking about, oh, what's suggested, what some people like to see. So I just really think that that's another way too of how to bring the grade score up, for any students, is to think about as to where that you made friends. Well, that's great. That you were able to talk to the students. Yeah, that's great. But your grade score may only be about maybe an 81 or maybe a 90% or maybe a 95% compared to a 75. So just thinking about as to where anything is such as accommodations or if it's going to be for student academic years or anything like that. And you're like weren't to where necessarily to where anything such as goals set to where that yeah, that I got a learning disability or anything else that you want to say. But on your hand, it just seems like to where that really that for whatever the teacher tells you, and then for whatever that you think that works best. So sometimes whenever I'm working something, I keep thinking that this is I know for sure I'm not doing this right. I don't know if I should keep going or not. So a lot of my artwork right here, like I mentioned before, is to where that if all of it even needs to include a picture or so. But anyway, it's already been over half an hour since I've been talking about this. But anyway, but there you have it. For happy learning, everyone, and then knowing about for what we learned about between proud goals and knowing for anything about about the happy face right here. You have right here's the childhood photos right here, but. But talk about here is like the basics about learning, about how well we get along with our teachers and well do our work. And I'm sure anybody would probably say that, especially on the grade book, is to where anything brand new. And I know that, like with anybody that may learn, to where anything that's going to be what you call brand new. And you're like, well, it's like from brand new. And my source of education, yeah, that was back 5 years ago. Well, I can't get the job because I need to complete one more year of schooling, or I got to take more classes. So it seems like to where that you have other people that have different opinions about, but then a lot of those could be what you call good opinions. So you may think this to where that after you graduate is to where, oh no, you're not done yet, Mr. Matthew. You still got work to do. You still got work to do. You got to write a paper. You got to put together your resume and as well as a job. So and it seems like to where the other pieces that I had to use too, and I know I probably have enough pieces to last for about maybe 5 more years. Anybody that may want to, or anything else that you want to talk about, and I'm sure that that for whatever that goes on, for whatever that happens, that I do ask as to where that yeah, for like it seems like to where I got to hire a professional just for these these images, these sources of works of art to be published on any type of educational sites. But let's just say if I were to become a professional in the near future, and anybody that may want to, or yeah, teaching teaching sites, it's like for how how you want to teach people the basic rules about chemistry or algebra and other types of basic math. You're like wanting to where this is the teacher's guide, the teacher right here, and then they're gonna maybe have something new on like the mobile app is to where, hey, my name is so so, I'll be your teacher for today. Please, open up your books to to chapter 15, lesson 1 or so, and write a 1 or 2 paragraph. Answer the questions in the assignments list. So you're like more to where in the next 5 years from now or so is thinking about what's going to be the next teaching lesson. But and I could probably say that with anybody's to where that I don't know if teaching is going to be going mobile in the future, but I can more likely say is to where that maybe homework is going to be made a little bit easier compared to like any student that may want to where whenever you go home, your parents may only have limited resources too about their source of education. But let's just say that the teachers, though, the teacher's quest, or maybe if it's what you call a program that teaches our students, our kids very well, that there's like a an online tutor to where it's programmed to where it would teach you the basics about this, lessons, lesson programs. So I'm sure anybody that may say is to where that any of the voice recording videos that I may do later on, I say, yeah, well, you should be teaching. But I'm like, I think about that too a lot of times. But I keep thinking, though, that, yeah, with me having a disability and limited access to whatever I can do, but still, that I keep thinking, I try to think on the bright side too, is to where that people, other students and teachers kind of look at your work, is that think about it, is to where that they look at your work as like excellent work, hard work, is knowing about understanding about the meaning, I say, for designing as well as your work of drawing. So like if this was me right here, this work right here, this was me, from the first grade, and the way I drew this right here, and anybody say that, can too many of you do that freehand? So you're like Warren Tour about that. But anyway, thanks for watching. Manime 25, and I'm sure that most of us have learned something today for it being a Sunday night. But anyway, you take care, everyone. But anyway, Manime 25, and thanks, and have a great day.